My daughter was still bleeding under her bandages when my mother told me to stop making her a problem. That's not a metaphor. That's a text message. I still have the screenshot. I will always have the screenshot. 9 hours earlier, surgeons had opened my 6-year-old's chest to fix a heart valve that was failing faster than her small body could keep up with. 9 hours alone in a waiting room, memorizing ceiling tiles. When she finally woke, pale, wired to 4 machines, asking for her grandmother before she asked for water, I did the one thing any mother would do. I took a photo. I sent it to the family group chat. 14 people. She's out of surgery. She's asking for you. My brother answered in 4 words. Busy. You've got this. My mother answered in 9. She's alive. Stop making this about you. 12 other people read those messages. 12 people who, 3 months earlier, had put on cocktail dresses and raised 6 figures in my daughter's name. Not one of them said a word back. Not one. I typed what I'd been trained since childhood to type. It's fine. I set the phone face down on her hospital blanket, walked to the stairwell where she couldn't hear me, and broke. 3 months later, at 10:04 p.m. on a Tuesday, my mother and my brother were sitting in 2 different rooms across the city, and their phones hit the floor in the same minute. Before I tell you what was on their television screens that night, you need to know what my family had really been doing with the money strangers gave to save my daughter's life. Those 2 cruel texts weren't even the worst part. It gets so much worse. Stay with me. Welcome back to Silent Revenge, where the quiet ones finally speak, and the people who counted on their silence learn exactly what it cost them. If stories like this hit you right in the chest, subscribe and drop a comment because you're going to want to talk about this one with somebody by the end. My name is Melissa Carver. I'm 36, a paralegal at a mid-sized firm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I spend my days catching fine print other people miss, which is probably exactly why I noticed what my family didn't want me to notice. I rent a small rambler on the west side with my daughter Josie. 6 years old, dinosaur-obsessed, with a scar down her chest she calls her zipper from an infant heart repair. My mother, Carol, lives across town in a tidy brick house with a flag out front. My older brother, Trent, 39, sells luxury real estate up north. His face is on a billboard off Highway 75. My father died 8 years ago, suddenly, leaving my mother with almost nothing but a house and a name she was determined to protect. Ever since, this family has run on one unspoken rule: make sure the neighbors see you handling a crisis, even if you're barely handling it. I've been the responsible one since 18, paying my own way through night classes and a paralegal certificate one exhausting semester at a time, sleeping 4 hours a night and telling myself it built character. Trent was always the one who announced things: the promotion, the new truck, the engagement ring. I was the one who quietly fixed things behind the scenes so the announcement could happen at all. My mother managed the difference between us, and somehow her math always landed in his favor. For 18 years that arrangement held, mostly because whenever it hurt me I said the only phrase I was ever taught to say. It's fine. By the end of February, that phrase and both hearts in this family, the real one in my daughter's chest and the fake one my family performed for the world, were about to be tested. The appointment was supposed to be routine. 20 minutes and echo back to school by lunch. Except the tech went quiet, and Dr. Adiz Bello came in and closed the door with a softness that made my skin prickle. Josie's valve repair was failing faster than expected. We can't wait past spring. She needs open heart surgery, most likely within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I did what I always do when the ground opens up. I made a list. I called insurance from the parking garage. Then, because 18 years of programming doesn't switch off, I called my mother. Her first question wasn't, "Is Josie scared?" It was, "Have you told anyone yet?" I understood within 48 hours. By that weekend, without one call to me, my daughter's face was plastered online asking strangers for money. My brother built the fundraiser Friday night. By Saturday morning it had a name: Hearts for Josie, my daughter's photo, and a goal with more zeros than I was ready for. He never called me. I found out when a coworker hugged me in the break room and said she'd donated. Within a week, it went viral enough that local news picked it up. My brother sat in the studio chair in a navy blazer the color of trust. My mother clutched a framed photo of Josie beside him, wearing a satin sash. I stood behind them, out of frame like a coat rack that occasionally cried on cue. "Family is everything to us," Trent told the anchor, hand over his heart. Total crossed $40,000 that night. Some exhausted part of me was grateful. But there was a cold spot at the base of my neck, a paralegal's instinct for fine print. Every dollar routed through one person, my brother. Sole organizer. Sole control. The same man who, 3 months later, would be too busy to visit a recovery room. I didn't just trust the process. In early March, when the hospital requested a deposit, I emailed Trent directly, invoice attached, asking him to transfer the campaign to me as Josie's guardian. Copied our mother. He called instead of writing, his pattern whenever he wanted nothing on record, and told me to trust the family. Then he handed me a $2,000 novelty check in a parking lot while his office photographer snapped photos. Caption: First disbursement to our brave fighter. I looked into every option a person without money can look into. Fundraising platforms give full legal control to the organizer, not to the child's mother. I had no legal claim without a lawyer I couldn't afford, and a daughter who needed surgery in 5 weeks, a job I couldn't lose, and pre-op appointments 90 minutes away. You cannot fight a legal battle and pack a hospital bag at the same time. So I did the only thing I had room for. I bought a plain black binder, 3 rings, nothing fancy, and I started printing everything. Screenshots. Dates. That ridiculous cardboard check. It would matter more than I ever imagined. They wheeled Josie away at 7:14 a.m. on April 9th, wearing a dinosaur surgical cap, telling the anesthesiologist to be careful with her zipper. I sat in that waiting room for 9 hours, counting 11 floor tiles between my chair and the vending machine. A nurse named Dottie brought me coffee I never asked for and said, "Nobody should have to count tiles alone." 4:10, I checked my phone for word from the OR. My thumb landed on social media instead. That's how I learned where my family actually was. The Hearts for Josie Gala. A ballroom downtown. String lights. My mother in a sash reading Team Josie. My brother in a tuxedo at a podium. The post had gone up while my daughter was still on the table. Caption: Tonight we celebrate hope. They'd thrown a party in her honor on the day of her open heart surgery, 90 minutes from where she actually was, and they hadn't come. Then the doors swung open. Dr. Bello in her scrub cap. Successful. They let me into the ICU that evening. Josie was the color of the bedsheet, more wires than blanket. Around 8:40, she surfaced and asked the question she'd been holding on to. "Did Grandma come?" I told her Grandma knew she was safe. Josie nodded. "Tell her I still have my zipper." I took one photo, pale, small, alive, a weak half thumbs up, and sent it to 14 names. "She's out of surgery. She's okay. She's asking for you." My brother replied in 60 seconds. "Busy. You've got this." My mother's reply landed while I was still staring at his. "She's alive. Stop making this about you." I read those 2 sentences 30 times, surrounded by machines proving my daughter's heartbeat. 12 other people saw them. None said a word. "Fine," I typed. Then I walked to the stairwell and cried with my fist against my mouth so the sound wouldn't reach her room. Remember that phrase. The next time I said it out loud, there was a camera rolling. If you've ever sat alone in a waiting room while the people who were supposed to love you were somewhere else, type present in the comments. I read every one. Subscribe, because what I found out 3 weeks later about where that money actually went is the part nobody in my family believed I'd ever discover. We came home 5 days later to a mailbox full of bills. My real out-of-pocket damage, insurance and all, just over $10,000. Meanwhile, the campaign page publicly showed $108,000. I wrote to Trent again, spreadsheet attached, asking for a real, honest payout, money that would actually reach the hospital bills. 3 days of silence, then $3,000 landed. Memo final. He called and, in his showing a house voice, explained the rest was earmarked, protected by something bigger than one hospital bill. We're building something in her honor, Mel. It's what's best for everyone. I asked what could possibly be bigger than the actual child strangers had donated to save. The foundation. Then he had a showing. Took 11 days to find what he'd built. The Josie Carver Foundation. Registered in early May. Director, Trent Carver. Treasurer, Carol Carver. A donate button, a stolen Easter photo, and an announcement for a second annual gala, bold, for an organization younger than the flowers on my porch. Then, at a red light on Riverside Drive, I found the part one hadn't found online. A bus bench with my daughter's face beside the foundation's logo, and beside that, my brother's real estate branding, matching fonts, matching colors. My daughter had become a marketing asset with a scar, advertising 2 businesses at once, and neither of them had ever once picked up the phone to ask if that was okay. "Mom, why am I on a bench?" Josie asked from the back seat, staring at her own 6-year-old face going by at 40 miles an hour. I told her carefully that some people put pictures where everyone can see them. She thought about it for a long moment, the way she thinks about everything, and said, "But nobody asked me." 6 years old. She'd already found the thesis of this whole story. That night I opened the binder and started a new tab. The foundation. I asked my mother, calmly, over pot roast where $108,000 had gone. She didn't flinch. She never flinches. This family runs on its name. Your father left me nothing else. I fed the 2 of you on that name. I will not apologize for keeping it strong. I said a child's hospital bill wasn't a threat to anyone's reputation. The foundation protects the money. People give to something permanent, not to one girl's bad year. One girl's bad year. That was open heart surgery, filed under branding. "Sign nothing without showing me first," she added, as if I were the one running a con. Every night that week, I lined up the public dollar figures next to my real spreadsheet side by side and let the numbers talk. Numbers don't lie. And the loudest number wasn't even mine. At a follow-up appointment, the hospital's family services worker, Priscilla Doyle, mentioned carefully that the donations office had never received a dime from my family's event. There'd been a pledge, a big one, announced from the podium the night of the gala. Clip was still online. 40 seconds of Trent raising a glass, pledging $25,000 to the children's cardiac unit in Josie's honor. The ballroom rose to its feet. My mother pressed a hand to her chest like she was receiving a medal. 400 people applauded money that, per hospital records, never arrived. Not that month. Not ever. That's when something in me shifted for good. Announcing a gift and pocketing the glory without ever sending the check isn't vanity. It's theft with a soundtrack. If your blood pressure is rising, buckle up. I haven't told you about the manila folder yet. Subscribe so you don't miss the ambush dinner. In mid-June, I sent a formal letter requesting a full accounting. What I got back was a dinner disguised as a summons. No plates on the table, just Trent, his wife Dana staring at her hands, my mother at the head, and a manila folder squared in front of my empty chair. I was overwhelmed. I was not thinking clearly since the surgery. Then the folder, a media release granting the foundation perpetual rights to Josie's name, image, and medical narrative forever for nothing. "Sign it," my mother said, "and this ends." I picked up the pen. 18 years of training reached up through my arm. It's fine, already warm in my mouth. Then I heard a 6-year-old voice in my head, "But nobody asked me." I put the pen down. My phone buzzed. The hospital. Josie's follow-up echo had come back abnormal, residual narrowing. The plan, a cardiac catheterization in January. Not open heart, but still her heart, still an operating room. And the deposit, $8,200. Due end of December. This wasn't a story about the past anymore. It had a due date. That night, I wrote across the binder's spine, "Josie, everything." Then I filed a formal report with the fundraising website, flagging misuse of funds, 30 pages of proof attached. 48 hours later, the campaign froze pending investigation. My brother called 11 times in one afternoon, the big brother voice, then the negotiator, then the victim. After everything? I looked around my kitchen for the everything. I couldn't find it. My mother's voicemail came at 9:40, level and dangerous. "You will not burn this family's name over money. Fix what you broke." She never once mentioned Josie. Not in the ICU texts. Not at dinner. Not now. There was only ever one patient in my mother's hospital, the family name. Her public post the next day spoke of a season of trials, reframing me, the mother who'd slept upright in a vinyl chair for 5 nights, as the unstable woman the money had to be protected from. Gathered hundreds of reactions before dinner. I had documents. She had a congregation. Then, on a Wednesday morning, someone knocked on my door, and it wasn't a neighbor. A county caseworker. An anonymous call expressing concern about my capacity to provide care. I let her in because innocent people with binders let them in. She saw a spotless house, a medication schedule on the fridge, a stocked pantry. Weeks later, a letter arrived, unfounded. But Josie had heard 10 seconds of it from the stairs. After the caseworker left, I found her clutching her dinosaur. Is the lady going to take me away? No. Never. As she considered this, then delivered her verdict. We're more than okay. I never found out who made that call, and I've been careful never to claim I know. That night, Dana, my brother's wife, texted, "Coffee not at either house." At a diner off the interstate, she slid a manila folder across the table. I do the books. Trent can't run a spreadsheet. Foundation bank statements. A 5-figure planning retreat at a lakeside resort, attendees both surnamed Carver. Monthly truck payments coded marketing vehicle. A kitchen renovation invoice memo, office, for the office run out of the kitchen where I first learned to say it's fine. Because I sat at the table where they rehearsed what to say about you, Dana said. My kids carry this name too. Then, if you use these, use them right. Not to win. Right. Paperclip to the last page was a business card. Renee Ashford. Channel 9 News. Renee ran a segment called Follow the Money. She listened to my whole story for 20 minutes without touching her pen, her tell for when something was real. I did the feel-good piece on your brother. Blazer, big check. I own a piece of this too. A story needs 3 legs, documents, an official complaint with the Attorney General, and a source on camera with a name and a face. Would Josie sit for it? Her producer asked by speakerphone. 10 seconds of the girl. The scar, maybe. Tasteful. I heard the same machine that built the gala wearing a press badge instead of a sash. No face. No scar. No bedside footage, I said, steadier than I felt. My daughter was already a prop in one production. I didn't come this far to book her into a second one with better lighting. Renee studied me for a moment, something shifting behind her eyes, respect, maybe, or recognition. But she didn't sugarcoat what that cost the story. And she made me say the rest of the math out loud. If the platform confirmed misuse, every donor got refunded, meaning none of that money would ever reach Josie's actual bills. And once I went on record, any private settlement was ash. Nobody pays the woman testifying against them. You likely lose the money. All of it. You understand? I read contracts for a living. I've never seen a clause where the truth pays retail. That week got worse. The catheterization date arrived, second week of January. The $8,200 deposit bill followed by mail. And then a cease and desist letter from a lawyer, a golf buddy of Trent's, threatening all available remedies if I kept making false statements. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. They weren't threatening me because I was lying. They were threatening me because I wasn't. We are 2 days from air. My mother is about to show up on my porch with an offer that almost breaks me. Don't leave now, comment porch if you want to know whether I took the money. Then headlights swept my kitchen window. My mother, walking in without knocking, looking her actual age for the first time in my life. No sash. Just Carol Carver, 63, in a cardigan. She told me about my father, the lapsed life insurance, the mortgage, the funeral, 9 years of casseroles that kept coming because of the name she'd built. Reputation is the only pension a woman like me ever had. For one long moment, I saw her whole. The girl who married at 20, the widow doing brutal arithmetic in a church pew, the woman who learned the hardest way possible that being seen as good was the only currency that never bounced. My mother is not a monster. She's a believer. She believes in the family name the way other people believe in God or compound interest. And she fed her own granddaughter to it and called it stewardship. Then she reached into her purse and set an envelope on my table. $10,000 cash. For the procedure. Take it. Sign it. Let us keep what keeps us. I told my mother no, as gently as no can be said. At the door, without turning around. This family runs on its name. The next morning, I filed a 40-page complaint with the state's Charity Oversight Office, ending in a sworn statement signed under penalty of perjury under the word true. My hands stayed level the whole time. That afternoon, I signed the interview agreement with my own conditions built in. No footage of Josie, no photos, no hospital imagery, nothing that could let a stranger find her. Without the kid, I might lose the 10 o'clock slot, the producer warned. Then lose it. You get the mother and the math. Taping Friday. Air date Tuesday 10 p.m. In the studio, Renee walked me through the numbers. 108,000 raised, 5,000 to the household, 25,000 pledged and never sent. Then she asked about the night of April 9th. I read the group chat out loud exactly as written. Busy. You've got this. She's alive. Stop making this about you. And what did you reply? It's fine, I said. And something I'd carried for 18 years set itself down. It was never fine. I just kept absorbing the cost and calling it love. A camera operator audibly swallowed. The station cut a promo, blurred check, voiceover. Where did the money really go? Tuesday at 10. My brother shared it on his own business page. Caption. Hope this isn't about my competition winking face. He had no idea. 6 that evening, my mother stood on my porch with a manila envelope thick enough to prop a door. $40,000. Full repayment. Trent's selling the truck. I took a loan against the house. You call that reporter and tell her you overstated things and this ends tonight. I wanted it. Badly. Every version of me that had ever said it's fine was singing in that choir. And I finally saw the whole machine clearly. My silence was its fuel, and it would run on it forever, and someday teach my own daughter to say it's fine with her own blood. My daughter is not a name, Mom. Names don't sit alone in waiting rooms. I pushed the envelope back. Her face came apart just for a second. You still have 4 hours. You could spend them calling your granddaughter. She still asks about you. She walked to her car. No shouting. Just the soft click of a door closing, somehow the loudest sound I know. 10 o'clock. In my living room, lamps off, Josie asleep down the hall, I sat on the floor and watched. Cross town, my mother was at church bridge night. North, my brother sat under a bar TV he'd personally asked the hostess to tune to Channel 9, because his own shared promo hadn't tipped him off. Follow the money. The graphic built itself line by line. 108,000 raised. 5,000 out. 25,000 pledged, never received. The statements: planning retreat, marketing vehicle, office. An active attorney general inquiry. A frozen campaign, donors to be refunded. Then my own voice over the 2 gray text bubbles blown up to fill the screen. Busy. You've got this. She's alive. Stop making this about you. In the fellowship hall, the room went quiet table by table, until only the television and my mother's phone hitting the carpet remained. At the steakhouse, a client said, "Trent, isn't that?" and his own phone hit the floor with a fork still in his hand. 2 phones. 2 rooms. Same minute. "I've been saying it's fine my whole life," the woman on the screen said. It was never fine. And the woman on my floor finally watched herself mean it. By midnight, 200 unread messages, cousins suddenly fluent after months of silence. And my mother calling on the hour like a clock striking. Fury, then damage control, then at 1:14 a.m. a voice I'd never heard from her. "Melissa. Please." Rage I was braced for. Please had no precedent. It nearly reached me. I stood in Josie's doorway and listened to her breathe, deep, even boringly miraculous, a repaired heart doing its quiet work in the dark. That sound is what I traded everything for. It holds up. I opened the family group chat one last time. 14 names. I pressed leave conversation. The screen asked if I was sure. For the first time in my life, I actually was. By Wednesday, the story had jumped its banks nationally. Consequences arrived like paperwork, not lightning. Trent's brokerage dropped him. His billboard became a mattress ad within a month. The foundation dissolved itself to avoid further distraction from Josie's recovery, a sentence I'd frame if irony hung on walls. The Frozen campaign refunded every donor, the total drained to zero, and I felt strangely calm watching it go. That money had never behaved like real money around my family. Better it went home clean. Then Priscilla called, smiling through the phone. Donors were calling the hospital directly now, asking how to give so the money would actually reach Josie this time. The Heart Unit's own family fund, audited by the hospital, no kitchen tables involved, filled up fast enough to cover January's deposit with money left over. Dottie, the tile-counting nurse, donated twice. Once under her own name. Once as tile counter. Josie's catheterization went exactly as promised. A balloon, 2 nights, home by Friday with a juice box addiction and a sticker that said champ. In spring, the Attorney General's settlement made it official. Restitution paid, the foundation formally dead, and both my mother and brother banned from ever soliciting charity in this state again. Their names, the very thing they'd built their lives on, now sit on a registry explaining exactly why. Dana filed for divorce that March and moved 2 streets over from me. We trade off school pickups now, which is its own quiet verdict on what a family actually is, and neither of us has ever needed to say that part out loud. A year almost to the day from that first photograph, an envelope arrived in my mother's handwriting. No apology. Just one line on the back of an old donation card. "You are still a carver." I slid the card into the very last sleeve of the binder, behind the settlement letter, and closed the cover. That binder was never really about the name. It was about the girl. It always was. We host Sunday dinner at my house now. Pot roast, folded napkins, Priscilla's lemon cake that never survives past Monday. Dottie drives down in her scrub top and lets Josie listen to her own heartbeat. Dana and her kids fill the loud end of the table. Not one adult chair belongs to anyone who shares my blood. Every chair is filled by someone who actually showed up. Josie counted heads with her fork one Sunday and delivered her verdict. Everybody came. Somewhere across town, I'm told, there was another gala that same month. Same ballroom. Same string lights. That machine never stops. Just changes fuel. It doesn't run on my daughter anymore. It doesn't run on me. She knocked over her milk mid-laugh. "Mom, it's fine," she announced, already grabbing napkins. Table froze at that phrase in her small mouth. I knelt down eye to eye. "No, baby. Some things aren't fine and we're allowed to say so. Family isn't the people who share your name. Family is the people who show up when the machines are beeping." She nodded, mopped up the milk, and asked for more roast. That's my story. 1 photograph. 2 texts I will never unread. and a 10 o'clock newscast that cost me the family I was born into and gave my daughter back her heart. This reminded you of a waiting room you once sat in alone. Type present below. If someone you love needs permission to stop saying it's fine, share this with them tonight. Subscribe to Silent Revenge, hit that bell, and I'll see you in the next story.